A scream tore across the comms and the cabin lights dropped to red. Alex Mercer said, "Cut external feeds now." Static frothed and a whisper slid in like a knife. Maya Chen said, "I'm tracing the source." A wet gasp bled through the carrier and became silence. Lucas Voss said, "That was recorded, not live." The waveform glitched and folded into a hidden track. Director Helen Graves said, "Asteria, maintain protocol and disregard anomalies." The whisper returned, thinner, urgent. An unnamed voice said, "They lied about the mission." Alex Mercer said, "Playback from the buffer, all channels." The hull shivered, as if something exhaled outside. Maya Chen said, "Sideband modulation is not ours." Alex felt the old shame rise like cold smoke. He had missed a warning once on Earth. Lucas Voss said, "We purge or we die in audit." The whisper cracked again, closer now. An unnamed voice said, "Find the recording before they seal it." The hidden file opened itself like a wound and bled a single word. Alex Mercer said, "Origin timestamp is pre-launch." Maya Chen said, "That is impossible by design." The cabin hummed with a predator's patience. Lucas Voss said, "We report a malfunction and sanitize the log." The whisper cracked again, closer to human now. An unnamed voice said, "Air is thin where truth lives." Director Helen Graves said, "Asteria, you will comply with Data Retention Protocol Delta." Alex tasted metal and counted his breaths. He had failed once and learned the cost of silence. Maya Chen said, "Sideband is piggybacking on our life support telemetry." Alex Mercer said, "Trace it through the scrubbers." Lucas Voss said, "Or through us." The lights steadied, but the room felt more unstable than space. The trace ran like a vein toward the scrubbers and split in two. Maya Chen said, "The echo nests inside environmental controls." Alex Mercer said, "Then it can breathe where we breathe." The hull ticked like cooling stone. Lucas Voss said, "Someone mapped a back door in hardware." Director Helen Graves said, "Proceed with caution and avoid speculation." The whisper uncoiled and carried a name he had buried. An unnamed voice said, "Alex, you owe me." Heat flushed his scalp under the seal. Alex Mercer said, "Identify the voice print now." Maya Chen said, "It matches a technician listed as deceased." Lucas Voss said, "Ghosts do not forge credentials." The scrubbers throbbed and the air tasted like old copper. A pressure alarm lanced the quiet and wrote jagged bars across the wall. Maya Chen said, "Microfracture on B-ring." Alex Mercer said, "Seal and load resin." The ship groaned like something remembering pain. Lucas Voss said, "We cannot patch a lie with glue." The whisper slipped between the beeps. "Aum." An unnamed voice said, "2 knocks, then 1." Alex took the kit and launched down the corridor. His boots kissed the deck in angry whispers. Maya Chen said, "Telemetry spikes when the knocks land." Director Helen Graves said, "Disregard folkloric cues and maintain repair." Alex Mercer said, "Copy, advancing." The deck vibrated with a coded patience that felt like intent. The resin set like amber, and the alarm softened to a hungry purr. Maya Chen said, "Play back the knocks." The hull answered with 2, then 1. Alex Mercer said, "It is a key for a door we do not admit exists." Lucas Voss said, "We are already inside." The hidden file bloomed a new label. An unnamed voice said, "Archive path. Covenant asterism." His pulse counted the spaces between words. Director Helen Graves said, "Cease unauthorized exploration." Alex Mercer said, "We can't unknow a wound once it opens." Maya Chen said, "The checksum matches mission planning." Lucas Voss said, "Planning from whom?" The whisper faded, leaving the cabin colder than the void. The cabin dimmed to false evening, and the private queue unlocked like a confession. Alex Mercer said, Play the last unviewed. Elena Mercer said, if you hear this, you are already gone. He watched her eyes search for him through latency and hope. The message smelled of home he could not carry. Elena Mercer said, promise me you will come back honest, not heroic. The word honest stung more than any audit. Alex Mercer said, I will not fail you again. A pause bloomed, full of dishes and street noise. Elena Mercer said, if you must choose, choose the truth. He closed his eyes and folded the fear into duty's shape. The ship kept breathing, indifferent and exact. The training sim rose like a ghost on his visor, replaying a test floor that still bled. Maya Chen said, you are drifting into it again. Alex Mercer said, the checklist missed a human. The echo of boots on concrete ran under the scene. Owen Hale said, we're green, we're fine. The memory skipped where the fire began. Maya Chen said, you took the blame and they kept the design. Alex Mercer said, a name carved into a silence is not justice. The sim froze on a face he could not bury. Maya Chen said, keep your eyes forward and your heart open. He let the guilt stay, not as a chain, but as a map. The pre-launch psych evil crawled from archive with the dispassion of a blade. Director Helen Graves said, define your failure. Alex Mercer said, I delayed the abort by 7 seconds. The room in the recording had no air for mercy. Director Helen Graves said, why seek this mission? Alex Mercer said, to earn the right to speak when it matters. A note tapped his file like a gavel. Director Helen Graves said, we require compliance, not absolution. He remembered signing, a pen heavy as iron. Between lines he had written a vow the agency could not own. The scheduled family window opened with a heartbeat of static and a wash of city dawn. Elena Mercer said, I dreamed you were climbing a ladder of light. Alex Mercer said, I am holding to the rails and to your words. The delay turned love into echoes that still felt warm. Elena Mercer said, do not let them turn you into a statue. He smiled because she knew the danger better than he did. Alex Mercer said, if I freeze, say my name and thaw me. A siren far below her window traded places with his fans. Elena Mercer said, come home with truth or not at all. He nodded to a camera that could not feel the promise. He opened a private log and let the words balance on a wire above the void. Alex Mercer said, I accepted this mission to pay a debt that fear could not collect. The cursor waited like a held breath. Lucas Voss said, you are recording a liability. Alex Mercer said, I am recording a spine. The ship hummed, unconcerned with courage. Lucas Voss said, truth does not keep you breathing. Alex Mercer said, breathing without truth is not living. A whisper stirred in the ducts, almost saying his name. He saved the log and felt lighter, then heavier, in the same second. The hum of the Asteria thickened like a throat closing. Maya Chen said, environmental controls are cycling wrong. Alex Mercer said, check scrubber array, compare against baseline. The air carried a taste of copper that belonged to memory. Lucas Voss said, the file and the life support are braided. The words pressed against his chest heavier than gravity. Maya Chen said, this is not accident. It is engineered. Alex Mercer said, then someone designed us to suffocate. The whisper bent into syllables like glass breaking. An unnamed voice said, every breath is logged, every fear measured. The crew exchanged looks that tightened into fractures. The panel spit back numbers like veins collapsing. Maya Chen said, someone coded this into the oxygen tables. Alex Mercer said, then someone lied before we left Earth. Lucas Voss said, Graves will brand this paranoia if we speak. Alex felt the pressure of silence heavier than a suit. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, you are experiencing expected drift. Do not improvise corrections. The words rang with sterilized confidence. Maya Chen said, expected drift does not choke us. Alex Mercer said, They planned the choking. The whisper returned, cruelly clear. An unnamed voice said, "They want you compliant, not alive." The oxygen taste sharpened, leaving tongues raw. Maya Chen said, "Override requires triple authorization." Lucas Voss said, "That binds us tighter than shackles." Alex Mercer said, "Then we break the lock." He remembered Elena's words, truth or not at all, and felt the lock quake. Director Helen Graves said, "Proceed with checklist 12. Alex Mercer said, "Checklist 12 is a coffin." The whisper trembled with humor not human. An unnamed voice said, "Keys lie in betrayal, not trust." Maya Chen said, "If one of us consents, the system bends." Alex looked at Lucas, and the silence grew sharp. Lucas shifted like a man with a fracture he would not show. Lucas Voss said, "You think I will give you the third key?" Alex Mercer said, "I think you already hold it." Maya Chen said, "Loyalty is not silence, it is survival together." The whisper deepened into something like laughter. An unnamed voice said, "One of you carries the knife meant for all." The oxygen alarms ticked higher, a pulse against their skulls. Director Helen Graves said, "Crew harmony is essential. Do not indulge in conflict." Alex Mercer said, "Conflict is breathing." Lucas Voss said, "Breathing is betrayal." The oxygen surged back like a tide retreating, and left a warning silence. Maya Chen said, "The file rewrites when we fight." Alex Mercer said, "It is feeding on us." Lucas Voss said, "Or measuring us for disposal." The whisper curled sharp, naming Elena. An unnamed voice said, "She asked for truth, not survival." His heart staggered in his chest. Alex Mercer said, "Then truth will be the weapon." Director Helen Graves said, "Asteria, your vitals are elevated. Breathe evenly." He breathed ragged, because the air itself was a lie. The room smelled of betrayal more than metal. The hidden truth twisted inside the Asteria's heart like a deadly vine. Alex Mercer said, "We were never meant to leave orbit." Maya Chen said, "We were bait in a game designed for something else." Lucas Voss said, "Something bigger is watching, and we are the prey." The whisper was louder now, drowning out all reason. An unnamed voice said, "You will never see what's behind the curtain." Alex Mercer said, "Then we tear the curtain down." Director Helen Graves said, "Asteria, focus on your primary mission." The walls groaned again, as if the ship itself wanted to reject the lie. The crew sat in the shadows of their growing knowledge. Maya Chen said, "We've reached the data core. All protocols suggest this isn't the mission we signed up for." Alex Mercer said, "It's a trap we agreed to without knowing." Lucas Voss said, "The truth isn't out there. It's in here with us." The whisper stirred again, colder this time. An unnamed voice said, "The longer you look, the more you lose." Alex Mercer said, "Then I'll keep looking until I can't lose anymore." Director Helen Graves said, "Focus on your mission objectives, Asteria." The words were sterile, as though spoken by someone who didn't know what they had done. The air felt thinner with every passing minute. Lucas Voss said, "This entire mission has been a lie. The agency doesn't want us back." Maya Chen said, "They wanted something from us, but it's not what we thought." Alex Mercer said, "Whatever it is, we'll never be the same again." The whisper lashed through the comms, maddening and unrelenting. An unnamed voice said, "You will be tested in ways you cannot understand." Alex Mercer said, "Then I'll pass the test by breaking it open." Director Helen Graves said, "Do not engage with unauthorized data, Asteria." Her tone was an order, cold as steel. The truth once found could no longer be ignored. Maya Chen said, "The truth is buried in the mission's history, locked behind layers of redacted files." Alex Mercer said, "Then we peel back the layers." Lucas Voss said, "And what happens when we uncover the core?" The whisper was louder, its cold tone filled with mocking glee. An unnamed voice said, "You will see things you wish you hadn't." Alex Mercer said, I need to know what I signed up for. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, cease all unauthorized access. Do not unlock any further data. The words held an edge of finality that made Alex's stomach drop. The ship shook suddenly, as if waking from a dream, and the data finally spilled out. Alex Mercer said, this was never about a mission, it was about a cover-up. Maya Chen said, and we were the experiment. Lucas Voss said, we are the sacrifice in their game. The whisper hissed in their comms. An unnamed voice said, you have uncovered the truth, but truth is a poison. Alex Mercer said, then I'll drink the poison if it means freedom. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, abort your unauthorized actions immediately. The command felt like a final warning. The silence after the data breach felt like an oppressive weight, thick and suffocating. Alex Mercer said, we've opened Pandora's box. There's no closing it now. Maya Chen said, we were never meant to see this. Lucas Voss said, if we speak, they'll silence us. The whisper broke into a cacophony, an overwhelming sound of voices. An unnamed voice said, you cannot escape what you have discovered. Alex Mercer said, then I'll confront it, no matter the cost. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, you are ordered to cease all unauthorized activities immediately. Her voice was sharp, commanding, but something in her tone felt hollow. The weight of their actions settled between them, a burden heavier than the vacuum outside. Maya Chen said, what if we're already dead, just waiting to be confirmed? Alex Mercer said, then I'll die knowing the truth. Lucas Voss said, and if we survive, what's left? The whisper now had a familiar, almost mocking tone. An unnamed voice said, survival is a cage. You've only traded one death for another. Alex Mercer said, I'll live with my eyes wide open. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, focus on your mission objectives and disregard all external distractions. The message was mechanical, devoid of empathy. The hum of the ship faded into a disorienting quiet, and the weight of their choices pressed down. Maya Chen said, we can't undo this. The damage is done. Alex Mercer said, but we can control how it ends. Lucas Voss said, and what if we're just playing into their hands? The whisper once again cut through the quiet, sharp and clear. An unnamed voice said, you cannot win this game. You are out of time. Alex Mercer said, then I'll make the time count. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, you have been warned. Further disobedience will result in immediate action. The tension reached a breaking point, their future uncertain. Maya Chen said, we've uncovered the truth, but it's a truth we're not prepared to face. Alex Mercer said, I was never prepared for this. Lucas Voss said, then we fight, or we fade into nothing. The whisper grew louder, mocking them. An unnamed voice said, fight all you want. It won't change your fate. Alex Mercer said, then I'll fight until I can't breathe anymore. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, follow protocol, and cease all unauthorized actions immediately. The command was final, but it felt like a death sentence. The moment before the storm was always the hardest. Alex Mercer said, we've reached the point of no return. Maya Chen said, then let's make sure we return with the truth. Lucas Voss said, the truth won't set us free, it'll destroy us. The whisper faded into a lingering, heavy silence. An unnamed voice said, your fate is sealed, it's too late to change anything. Alex Mercer said, then let's make them regret it. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, final warning. Cease all operations immediately. The silence after her command felt like the calm before an explosion. The stillness was deafening, and every breath felt like a rebellion against the inevitable. Alex Mercer said, we've crossed the line. There's no going back now. Maya Chen said, the line was crossed when we signed up. Lucas Voss said, now we're just marking time, waiting for them to come. The whisper came again, taunting and relentless. An unnamed voice said, there is no escape now, you have been judged. Alex Mercer said, then I'll face judgment on my terms. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, cease all actions and comply with mission directives. The command felt like a hand tightening around his throat, but Alex refused to surrender. The walls of the Asteria no longer felt like protection. Maya Chen said, it's like the ship is alive, watching us. Alex Mercer said, it's always been alive, just hiding its hunger. Lucas Voss said, and where its meal. The whispers swelled, echoing through the corridors. An unnamed voice said, you are the last experiment, the final test. Alex Mercer said, then I'll be the one to end it. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, comply with all mission instructions and desist from any further interference. Her voice, like all the others, felt hollow and unyielding. The truth now felt like a heavy burden, one that no longer belonged only to Alex. Maya Chen said, we're all marked now. No matter what happens next, they know. Alex Mercer said, then we make them regret it. Lucas Voss said, we can't escape them, not now. The whisper was sharper, like a blade cutting through their resolve. An unnamed voice said, you can never outrun the truth. You can only delay it. Alex Mercer said, then I'll fight the delay. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, return to course. Cease all unauthorized interference. But Alex felt her voice growing weaker with every command. The walls of the Asteria seemed to close in on them. The truth no longer something they could avoid. Maya Chen said, we've crossed into something worse than death. There's no escape. Alex Mercer said, then we'll make our stand here. Lucas Voss said, what if it's already too late? What if we've been dead all along? The whisper returned, relentless, as though it were inside their very thoughts. An unnamed voice said, the truth is a poison, and you will all drink it. Alex Mercer said, then let the poison flow. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, you are to comply with the mission parameters immediately. But Alex no longer feared her words. The final confrontation felt inevitable, like the last breath before the plunge into the unknown. Alex Mercer said, this is it, we either stand or fall together. Maya Chen said, there's no middle ground anymore. Lucas Voss said, then we make our stand. The whisper felt like a looming shadow, its cold fingers inching closer. An unnamed voice said, this is where it all ends. You will not survive. Alex Mercer said, we will survive because we're the ones who choose how this ends. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, cease all unauthorized activities and comply with mission directives. But Alex knew that the moment of compliance had long passed. The calm after the storm felt like the last breath before the end. Alex Mercer said, we've made our choice. The truth is out there now. Maya Chen said, and we will never be the same again. Lucas Voss said, we're not the same. We're shattered pieces of the past. The whisper now sounded faint, like a memory slipping away. An unnamed voice said, you think you've won, but you have only revealed your weakness. Alex Mercer said, then let our weakness be the strength to destroy the lie. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, cease all unauthorized actions. This is your final warning. But her words felt empty, powerless. The final moments before the truth settled in felt like an eternity. Maya Chen said, we can't undo what we've done. It's out there now. Alex Mercer said, then we live with it, no matter what it costs. Lucas Voss said, I don't know if we can survive the consequences. The whisper came again, weaker now, but still present. A named voice said, survival is a lie. You are already gone. Alex Mercer said, then we make our own fate. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, return to Earth. The mission is over. But her command was a hollow echo in the vast silence of space. The air felt thinner, the gravity of their choices pressing them into the void. Alex Mercer said, this is it. We either face what we've done or let it consume us. Maya Chen said, it's already consuming us. But we choose to survive. Lucas Voss said, I don't know if survival is enough anymore. The whisper was almost gone now, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. An unnamed voice said, You are already dead in the eyes of those who created you. Alex Mercer said, Then we live for ourselves, not for them. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, comply with Earthbound protocols immediately. Her voice cracked, but the ship continued its journey, as if it too had accepted their fate. Time seemed to stretch out, every second a fragile thread. Alex Mercer said, I don't know what's waiting for us, but we've made our choice. Maya Chen said, We chose truth, even if it destroys us. Lucas Voss said, Maybe the destruction is the only freedom we have left. The whisper, now just a distant echo, faded completely. An unnamed voice said, The truth is an anchor, but it will drown you. Alex Mercer said, Then I'll sink with it, but at least I'll know why. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, your mission is terminated. Return to Earth immediately. The silence that followed felt final. The end of a long and uncertain journey. The final moments of the journey were quieter than expected, but they carried the weight of everything that had led up to this point. Alex Mercer said, We've made it through, and we will be remembered, one way or another. Maya Chen said, Let the truth be our legacy. Lucas Voss said, It's the only thing left that's real. The whisper never returned. The Asteria, once a vessel of lies and secrets, had become a monument to their defiance. An unnamed voice said, You think you've won, but you've merely lived to see the aftermath. Alex Mercer said, Then let the aftermath speak for us. Director Helen Graves said, Asteria, prepare for re-entry. The mission is over. The cold silence of space remained, as final as the truth itself.